Life.
Yep.
Hi, I will begin. So welcome to the webinar, Eating Well During Treatment, presented by SPOHNC. My name is Marianne Caputo. I'm the Executive Director of SPOHNC, Support for People with Oral and Head and Neck Cancer. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Savor Health and SPOHNC's Eating Well During Treatment webinar. We're thrilled to introduce Ina, the Intelligent Nutrition Assistant, who is here to provide personalized support for patients and survivors' dietary needs. Before we dive in, I'd like to thank Chelsea Snyder, our talented and expertise oncology dietitian and moderator, who will guide us through how Ina can help meet dietary challenges during and after treatment. For those unfamiliar with SPOHNC, our name stands for Support for People with Oral and Head and Neck Cancer. Founded 33 years ago by oral cancer survivor Nancy Leopold, we continue her legacy and mission. Our work is dedicated to raising awareness and meeting the needs of oral head and neck cancer patients through comprehensive resources and publications. Let me introduce our dedicated team of 5 who work tirelessly to fulfill this mission. Of course, you've met myself, and I'll go on. Natalie Regent-Rathner, Marketing and Communications Manager, Chris Leonardis, Outreach Administrator and Newsletter Editor, Cynthia Bazil, Chapter Administrator, and Christina Ermarino, Social Media Coordinator. We each wear multiple hats, but always together as a team to support everyone who reaches out for help. SPOHNC's programs include support groups. Since our first meeting in 1991, these groups have grown to nearly 100 nationwide. We're deeply grateful to the amazing volunteers who lead these meetings. One-on-one mentoring program established in 2004. This program matches patients with survivors who share similar diagnosis and treatments. Today, it includes over 200 volunteers, dedicated volunteers, and both of the above programs are free of charge. We have many online resources. Our website hosts financial, emotional, educational resources. Additionally, you'll find survivor vignettes, personal stories of resilience and hope that can provide encouragement to those at the beginning of their treatment journey and moving forward. And not to take up too much time, we will address questions after the webinar. And now, without further ado, I'm pleased to hand over things to Chelsea Snyder, oncology nutritionist at Savor Health, to introduce Ina.
Yeah.
Chelsea, take it away.
Thank you so much. Very grateful to be here today to partner with SPOHNC to share our free resource, Ina, which stands for the Intelligent Nutrition Assistant. Ina is a digital health tool that helps patients, caregivers during treatment and accessing evidence-based nutrition guidelines. I'll share more about the resource, all of the benefits, and I'll show you a demo of how to sign up at the end of our presentation. But I'm also here to share more information on nutrition during treatment for oral head and neck cancer patients and talk to you about why it's so important, sharing some practical tips. And then if you need, more resources, education, and support, we'll talk about how to register for the resource at the end of the presentation. Savor Health is a digital health company that provides precision nutrition interventions that help to manage chronic diseases. Our expert platform applies guidelines-based nutrition science to each patient's unique profile, which helps to optimize treatment outcomes, quality of life, and so much more. Ina launched in 2019 as the world's first dietitian on demand, providing personalized nutrition interventions similar to the guidance of a registered dietitian. We have a database of expertly curated nutrition interventions that support complex patients, and we're partnering with SPOHNC to offer this as a free resource to patients and caregivers who would like more nutrition support. Just some topics that I will touch on today. So common side effects of treatments and recipes that can help manage them. So specifically, recommendations on how to deal with all of the oral changes that happen during treatments, and then some recipe suggestions. I will talk about what a plant-based diet is. So if you're in more of the survivorship phase of treatment, how you can focus your nutrition goals on following a plant-based diet. And then we'll share more about INA, and we'll save time at the end for questions. So just to talk about why nutrition is so important during treatment. 15 to 40% of patients experience malnutrition around the time of their cancer diagnosis. So this really highlights how prevalent malnutrition can be. Before treatment, nutrition can help managing problems that might make eating difficult. It can help to prevent weight loss, and it can help your body to maintain the strength that is needed during treatment. So working with a registered dietitian or using INA as an evidence-based resource can really help support you at any point during your treatment, even at diagnosis. So what is an oncology dietitian? So an oncology dietitian is someone who has a CSO, which stands for Certified Specialist in Oncology. This means that the dietitian has worked for 2 years as a registered dietitian, has 2,000 working hours specifically with oncology patients, and every 5 years passes a board exam to obtain and recertify. So this really highlights how much experience and expertise oncology dietitians have. However, not every patient is fortunate enough to have access to an oncology dietitian on their team, and INA bridges this access gap. Nutrition is also very important during treatment. So during treatment, the rates of malnutrition increase from previously, we said 15 to 40%. Now 40 to 80% of patients might experience malnutrition. So very high risk for malnutrition if you're undergoing cancer treatment, highlighting the importance of nutrition intervention. 90% of patients have addressable nutrition symptoms that can be treated with nutrition intervention. And there's only one RD for every about 2,700 cancer patient, again, highlighting the need for more support and resources. Nutrition during treatment can help with so many things. It can help manage side effects like nausea, diarrhea, taste changes. It can help you to maintain body weight and muscle mass. It can prevent delays or breaks in treatment. It can prevent hospital stays and reduce the time you're in the hospital if you're optimizing your nutrition and eating well and supporting your body with the calories and the proteins that it needs. And it can help with managing side effects like decreased appetite and nausea. After treatment is over, once you're finished with the treatment phase and healed from the side effects that you might have experienced, it's also very important to focus on nutrition, but in a little bit of a different light. So preventing any recurrent cancer and really focusing on that plant-based diet, which is really, really important after treatment. Making sure that you're healed from all your side effects and focusing on that survivorship phase of plant-based eating. Common symptoms that you might experience during treatment are dry mouth, mouth sores or mucositis, throat sores or esophagitis. Changes in taste and smell are very common and can present in multiple different ways. Difficulty chewing or swallowing, weight loss, fatigue, loss of appetite, early satiety, maybe gas or bloating, pain, nausea and vomiting, and constipation and diarrhea. So each treatment will have its own side effect profile, but these are common side effects that patients might face during treatment. Oopsies, sorry. So one side effect that I wanted to touch on is managing mouth and throat sores. So this is very common for our population that we're here talking about today. So some nutrition interventions that can help are choosing soft, pureed, easy to chew and swallow foods. Foods like yogurts, pudding, ice cream, pureed soups, that are made with mild ingredients. So maybe avoiding things like acidic, spicy, or tomato soups. So having soft roasted or steamed vegetables that are peeled and deseeded, steamed and soft roasted sources of protein like scrambled eggs, steamed fish, poached chicken, and having some mashed dishes like egg salad, mashed potatoes, and squash. You can also add moisture to foods by cooking it in broths and sauces, and try some nutrient-dense smoothies or oral nutrition supplements. So these are multiple different examples of foods that will be easy to tolerate if you're experiencing mouth or throat sores during treatment. Limiting foods that would be irritating or really hard to eat if you're having mouth or throat sores. So those would be spicy or acidic foods like tomato soups or sauces, citrus flavors, anything lemon or lime, anything that's hot or spicy, or even some raw fruits that might not normally be irritating, could be hard to tolerate if you have mouth or throat sores. So sticking with some mild fruits like bananas or watermelon that are really soft, mild, and easy to eat. Avoid hard or crunchy items like toasted bagels or bread, raw vegetables or salads, fruits that have hard skins like an apple, raw nuts or seeds that are not blenderized. So different examples of ways that you can modify your diet and eat the right foods that will help manage the symptoms of mouth and throat sores. Managing taste changes is also something that dietitians can help you do during treatment. So altering the taste of your food based upon the changes in taste that you're experiencing. So patients describe this in many, many different ways. Some patients report a loss of taste. Some patients report a metallic taste. Some patients report that sweet food tastes really, really sweet and they're not tolerating it. So working with the patient to identify which kind of taste changes they're having is important. But in general, the rule of FASS can help. So this stands for fats, acids, sweets, and salt. So 4 different ways that you can enhance the flavors of food if you're experiencing taste changes. Of course, if you're having mouth or throat sores, you don't want to have an acidic option added to your food. But if you're not having mouth or throat sores, you can add a drop of lemon juice. You can have a lemon or lime flavored yogurt. That might help if you're experiencing a lack of taste. Fats are a vehicle for flavors and can really help your taste buds, if you're having a lack of taste. So using different flavored olive oils or avocado in your meals can help improve your taste. If you're having a lack of taste, you can also add a little bit of sweet or a little bit of salt to enhance the flavors of your meals. For example, if you're having something like a yogurt or an oatmeal and it's not really tasting like anything in the morning, you can add a drop of honey or maple syrup, which is a natural sweetener, to help enhance the flavor and help so that you taste it, it tastes good, and you finish your meal. So you're getting, all the calories and the protein that you need. So just different ways that you can modify your meals as you're going through treatment based on the side effects that you're having. I did put some recipe cards in here that provide some recipes that will help manage certain side effects. You're going to get the slides after the presentation, so you'll be able to take the recipes. And SPOHNC also has wonderful cookbooks that have recipes from patients who have gone through treatment as another resource for recipes. In addition to that, INA provides recipes that are appropriate for the side effects that you're experiencing during treatment. But I wanted to include, as we talk today through nutrition suggestions and how to modify your diet, some recipe ideas. So one recipe idea, if you're having sores in your mouth or throat, is chia seed pudding. It has a similar texture to like yogurt or rice pudding, but it's made with chia seeds, which are a really awesome superfood that provide a lot of protein, and that plant-based protein that we'll talk about at the end of the presentation. So chia pudding is kind of, I don't want to say bland, but it can be modified the base of the recipe can be modified to include a lot of different flavors. So you basically can use any type of milk. I put coconut milk for an example. You could put yogurt, or you could put any non-dairy yogurt, agave nectar for a little bit of sweetness, and then chia seeds. When you mix this together and let it soak overnight, it forms a pudding or a gel, which is really soft and easy to eat. Then you can build on that to add any flavors you like. So some fun additions could be a lemon flavor by using a little bit of lemon juice or lemon zest, a key lime flavor, adding in lime and a little bit of crumbled up graham cracker, and a little bit of matcha powder for color, a scoop of protein powder. You can have a chocolate protein powder or a vanilla protein powder. And then if you are tolerating any fruits, so pureed fruit or using frozen fruit to make a little bit of a puree like strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, or mangoes. So all different ways you could modify this recipe. Provides a lot of protein, a lot of calories, and all different flavors based upon what you're enjoying during treatment. Another example of a recipe that could be appropriate for managing side effects is a hibiscus mint tea. So if you're having taste changes, like I said before, playing around with the different flavors of foods can really help you eat well. A lot of patients who experience taste changes don't tolerate the taste of water as well as they normally would. So playing around also with the flavors of beverages that you drink can help with your nutrition and hydration during treatment. So this is just one example, a really great flavor match between hibiscus and mint. Hibiscus is a little tart, and it really helps to neutralize any bad taste from chemo drugs. It also provides a natural source of vitamin C and antioxidants in the diet, and mint is very, very good for digestion. You can serve this hot or cold, whichever way you like, but a way to kind of change the flavors of not only the foods that you're eating, but the beverages as well. Difficulty chewing is a common side effect for oral and head and neck cancer patients, and it can make eating difficult when you have to change your normal diet, your normal meals or snacks. So switching to soft and moist foods. So prioritize foods that are easy to swallow, like mashed potatoes, scrambled eggs, oatmeal, yogurt, and applesauce, just as some examples. Some nutrient-dense smoothies can help, so fresh or frozen fruits, protein sources like Greek yogurt and greens, having some well-cooked vegetables and tender proteins like carrots and squash, tender meats like shredded chicken, fish, or beans that break down easily and can be mashed or pureed. Avoiding any hard or crunchy foods like nuts, chips, raw vegetables, and granola. Avoid any sticky or chewy foods like caramel, candy, popcorns, nuts, or really tough meats. And then avoiding dry foods that lack any moisture like crackers, crusty bread, or dry cereal. Any of these can be modified to meet your dietary needs. So having cereal that's soaked in milk, having a softer, more moist bread, maybe something like a French toast that's soaked in eggs and has syrup on top or a little bit of honey. So all different ways that you can modify the meals that you're eating. A recipe for difficulty chewing, as an example, is a shakshuka recipe. So this is a really great Mediterranean plant-based recipe that is super healthy, has a great source of protein, which is eggs, and basically uses a mix of very, very soft cooked tomatoes or tomato sauce and vegetables, a little bit of spices based on how much you can tolerate, and then cooks eggs on top. So a very soft but healthy, well-balanced meal, something that you can eat for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If you have difficulty swallowing, you might require a liquid diet, or a diet that includes thickened liquids. Of course, this would be prescribed by your medical team, but if this is something you require, it might be recommended to use commercially available thickening agents that add a little bit of thickness to liquids like water, juice, or coffee. Having some smoothies, milkshakes, or oral nutrition supplements, having some pureed soups. So things that are mild options are butternut squash, split pea, or lentil that can be completely pureed. They're very smooth and easy to swallow. And a tip is that if you have a more chunky soup that you want to turn into a thickened soup or, a fully pureed soup, you can just add a little bit of extra broth or bone broth into a blender or into a pot with a hand blender and blend it up until it's completely smooth. So basically you get all the nutrition from the chunky or regular soup and just blend it up into a puree. Avoiding any thin liquids or carbonated beverages if you were advised not to consume that, and any mixed texture liquids. So drinks that have little pieces or smoothies with seeds or pulps, those can make swallowing harder. So if you're making a smoothie or a milkshake, just being mindful that anything that you put into the smoothie or milkshake is completely, has no little pieces in it. Like something like berries, if you blend that up, could have a lot of seeds. So just ensuring you're using the appropriate food items for your diet prescription. One example of a recipe that can help if you have difficulty swallowing is a borscht recipe. So this uses beets, which is a cancer superfood that is in season soon, as we're approaching the winter. It uses basically a variety of ingredients, including sour cream, which can add a lot of calories to your meal if you require a high calorie diet. And you can completely blend this to make a really nutrient dense and super healthy meal for difficulty swallowing. Dry mouth is one of the most common side effects of medications and something that can be really hard to manage during cancer treatment, but nutrition intervention can certainly help. So staying hydrated with different foods and beverages, always keeping water or liquids nearby and continuously sipping on them. Add different flavors to your water to stimulate saliva production. So before we talked about the hibiscus mint tea, you can add a little drop of lemon juice or a little bit of fruit juice to your water. Drinking different flavored teas can also help to stimulate that saliva production. Choose moist and soft foods that will be easier for you to eat, for you to chew and swallow if you're having dry mouth. So foods like melons, like watermelon, ice pops, smoothies, soups, cucumbers, yogurt, all have a high water content and will be a lot easier for you to eat. Serve pasta and rice and different proteins in sauces or broths, and choosing things like gelatin and pudding can also be easy to eat. Again, including any saucy or gravy-based dishes rather than something that's dry or roasted. Avoid any caffeinated or sugary beverages, which can make dry mouth worse. So things like sodas, citrus flavored juices, energy drinks, or beverages that are really, really high in sugar. And avoid any alcohol containing mouthwashes. So having good oral care is very important during treatment. However, alcohol-based mouthwashes can be drying during treatment. So always speaking with your medical team to get a alcohol-free mouthwash recommendation. An example of a recipe that can be helpful for dry mouth is a popsicle. So using frozen fruits, this example has frozen cherries and blackberries, a little bit of honey for that sweetness, Greek yogurt for protein, basically blending it together and putting it into a popsicle mold so that you can have something that's really soothing but nutritious and high in protein, high in calories to help when your mouth is very dry during treatment. One other example is one of my favorite recipes, which is a Greek lemon soup. This is also really versatile if you don't like, if you're following a vegetarian or a vegan diet, you can make this, easily modified by using a vegetable stock. You can use bone broth in this to increase protein instead of chicken stock. Orzo is a really great soft hidden source of a lot of protein that's just super easy to tolerate during treatment. This recipe also includes eggs, a little bit of lemon, salt and pepper, and makes for a really tasty, easy to eat high protein, high calorie dish if you're experiencing dry mouth. We just talked about dry mouth and how alcohol-containing mouthwashes might be a little irritating and drying during treatment. It's typically okay to make your own mouth rinse at home with baking soda, salt, and warm water. If you're experiencing mucositis or esophagitis, mouth sores or throat sores that are really painful, you would likely want to omit the salt from this recipe. However, this is an example of a recipe that you can use to make a homemade mouth rinse and use it before and after meals and even before bed. So this can help with dry mouth and taste changes and even appetite changes during treatment to help clear any flavors or taste from your mouth after a meal. So just mix it well, swish and spit, and make sure you're making a fresh new batch every day. Weight loss is also very common during treatment, and nutrition can help prevent unintentional weight loss. So choosing calorie-dense, easy-to-swallow foods. Options like smoothies that have added protein powder, nut butters, avocado, and full-fat yogurt, and soft fruits, or pureed soups that are made with high-calorie ingredients like cream or olive oil or avocado oil. All of them will boost up calories. Changing the way you eat. So typically we eat 3 meals a day, maybe even 1 or 2 with a little snack if we're super busy. But having smaller, more frequent meals can really help you optimize your nutrition during treatment. So aim for 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day with easy to chew options like yogurt, scrambled eggs, and mashed potatoes that help to keep your energy up without overwhelming your appetite. Adding some healthy fats and oils to foods. We talked about foods like avocado, nut butters, using cheese or full-fat yogurt, which increase the calories in your meal and don't require extra chewing. Try to omit any low-calorie foods. So, plain vegetables or broths, although they might be healthy, if your goal is to maintain your weight, you want to have more high-calorie foods in your diet. Limit any dry or tough foods that might be, difficult to consume during treatment. Another great example of a recipe that can help with early satiety or weight loss is a capellini with ricotta cheese. So another example of how you could make a soft, nutrient-dense meal using chicken stock or bone broth, some soft cooked vegetables, any type of pasta, and then some cheese on top. So soft, easy to eat, and nutrient dense. All right, I wanted to touch on some tips for the holidays since we are already approaching Thanksgiving. And the other end of the year's holidays will be up soon, and it can be a very challenging time during cancer treatment, especially with eating when you're not feeling like yourself or you're managing multiple side effects, or maybe you don't know how you're going to feel because one day you might have a great appetite and the next day your appetite is not the best. So some tips that you can use and manage to make it easier are communicating. So letting your loved ones know how you feel or what foods you tolerate. Don't be shy and share information on things that you can and can't eat. Simplify hosting if you are also playing the host for this holiday season. So maybe skip cooking and bring essentials like napkins or drinks if you want to contribute something to the holiday. Be prepared. So pack some snacks like crackers, nut butter, sandwiches in case the food that is at the holiday gathering isn't suitable for you. Always stay safe. So keep in mind if you're actively undergoing treatment, your immune system might be compromised. So be really cautious of foods that were touched by multiple people. Maybe try to serve yourself food first. Wash your hands often and make sure you're following good food safety practices and eat hot foods very quickly. If there's multiple different options available at the holiday table, it might be beneficial to have some simple meals. So simple baked steamed dishes over really rich or heavy dishes if you're not feeling 100%. Have small portions and then see how you're feeling later on. And if you're irritated by any smells of holiday cooking or smells of the meals, just step outside or sip some mint tea if the strong odors are bothersome to you. So we want everyone to enjoy their holiday season. However, it might be a little bit different than the past, and that's okay. Just have a game plan, use some of these tips to have the best holiday that you can have. All right, now I'm going to pivot to talk a little bit more about a plant-based diet. So once you're finished with treatment, hopefully your side effects have subsided. You want to focus on following a more plant-based diet. This can help to prevent recurrence of any cancer. It can help to prevent other chronic diseases and is really healthy for anyone to follow. So what is a plant-based diet? A plant-based diet is a diet that's rich in whole grains, fruits and vegetables, plant-based protein, and healthy plant-based oils. So you can see here, this is kind of the plant-based diet food pyramid, a little bit different than our typical food pyramid, but a lot of colorful fruits and vegetables at the bottom, different whole grains, so whole grain bread, oatmeal, brown rice, farro, quinoa, whole wheat couscous, leafy greens, legumes, so any black beans, chickpeas, edamame, different types of seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds, and lentils, and then healthy fats and oils. So those mainly come from nuts like almonds, pecans, walnuts, which can all be eaten in the softer form of a nut butter, and then healthy plant-based oils. So usually oils that are liquid at room temperature, like avocado oil or olive oil. So yes, you can eat animal protein too, within moderation. So we want to have a balance of some plant-based meals and snacks and some meals that have animal protein as well. So look at this pyramid and maybe identify some of the foods that you like and think about how you can make some of your meals or snacks more plant-based during the week. So the goal is not to be 100% vegetarian or vegan unless that's your preference, but eating some more plant-based meals and snacks and weaving them in throughout the week. So just some practical tips if this sounds like something new or a little overwhelming to you. So choosing nutrient-rich plant-based snacks like nuts, seeds, nut butters, seed butters, and soft bread can be one example. Adding some more plant-based protein to your meals, so beans, lentils, or tofu. I always like to point out how there are a lot of plant-based options during the winter. So we can think about a typical chili that might have beef or chicken, which is certainly okay in moderation, but it's really great to make just a bean chili that provides a lot of protein. Other soup options are lentil soup, split pea soup, any type of white bean soup. So a lot of easy ways to incorporate that, especially during the fall and winter months. Swap some dairy foods for dairy alternatives. So again, totally fine to consume dairy if you're in the survivorship phase and not at risk for weight loss during treatment anymore. Focusing on non-fat or low-fat dairy options is probably the best. However, there are a lot of dairy alternatives that make your meals more plant-based. So things that are made from almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, coconut milk, all really great plant-based options. Make veggies the main event. So center your meal or snack around a vegetable. Try to fill at least half of your plate with colorful vegetables like spinach, peppers, sweet potatoes. Smoothies are a really great way to have a plant-based meal. And then using different herbs and spices. So not forgetting that herbs and spices also contain all of the beneficial minerals and phytonutrients that colorful fruits and vegetables have. So things like mint, basil, dill, cinnamon, turmeric, ginger are all different ways to add more herbs and spices to your foods. This is just a slide that contains some of the best cancer-fighting foods that are backed by human research studies. So it highlights just how colorful the diet can be in incorporating all of these cancer-fighting foods. So asparagus, strawberries, lemon, spinach and kale, tomatoes, apples and cherries, garlic, coffee and tea are also on here. So all the different types of cancer-fighting plant-based foods that you can start to incorporate into your diet during the survivorship phase. Alrighty. So that was all the information that I wanted to share. I know that was a lot of information packed into just 30 or so minutes, but hopefully some helpful tips and guidance that you can use, as you navigate this holiday season, as you navigate cancer treatment or the survivorship phase. I'd like to take this time to talk a little bit more about our virtual dietitian on demand, Ina, and show you the sign up process. So this slide just highlights some of the highlights of Ina. So we have a large and growing database of guidelines-based nutrition interventions. Ina is always available 24/7 on demand from your cell phone. Ina is always safe, so your information is private and HIPAA compliant. It is always free through our partnership with SPOHNC. You can ask Ina anything, tips for managing side effects during treatment, recipes for managing side effects, healthy holiday recipes, and more, or any general, nutrition-related FAQ. Ina's guidelines are customized for clinical needs and context. Ina does have the support of live oncology dietitians when needed. And Ina also pushes out some customized tips and recipes that are relevant for any patient or caregiver who would want to use the platform. So just some examples of questions that you can ask Ina. So you can say, can I have a recipe for nausea? Can I have a recipe for mouth sores? Can I have a plant-based recipe that's warm after my full FOX treatment? Or can I have a gluten-free breakfast recipe that might help me when I'm having diarrhea? So Ina's available anytime, any place, anywhere to answer your questions. So this is our URL that is available through the SPOHNC website. So you can either put this URL in your browser, go to the SPOHNC website to find the URL, or scan this QR code, which will bring up the website. I'm going to just fix my screen so I can walk you through the sign up process. And show you in real time how everything works. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so this is our landing page with SPOHNC. You could see up here, it says brought to you by SPOHNC. I'm going to put in my phone number, accept the terms of use, and click Let's Get Started. And Ina will text me right away. So if you just look at our sample landing page for more information, Ina introduces herself here and shares more about the highlights of the technology down here. Also on my screen is, my cell phone. So that this is my cell phone, and after you sign up, you get a welcome message from Ina that says, "Hi, I'm Ina, the Intelligent Nutrition Assistant. You can text me 24/7 for an answer to a nutrition question, a recipe, or more. You can click the link below to complete a brief survey to personalize my guidance, and I'm always here to help you, so please save my phone number." We do have all of the users on our platform complete some really short surveys that collect little bits and pieces of data over time. So this initial link would collect data on the patient's profile. So their name, their diagnosis, if they're a patient or caregiver, what type of cancer or other chronic medical conditions they have. I can also ask Ina for help right away. So I could say, I need help with constipation during cancer treatment. So I'll just show an example of how Ina is used. So once you register for the platform, you can start texting with Ina right away. And you can ask her, like we said, any symptom management questions for any recipes, and any nutrition FAQs. I'll just also pull up the survey. So like I said, we collect little bits and pieces of information over time, that helps the platform personalize the guidance. So you can complete your patient profile by putting in your name. If you're a patient, caregiver, or healthcare provider. So I'll say I am a patient. What type of cancer do I have? So for example, you can, scroll down and say, I'll just put this cancer as an example. What stage is your cancer or not applicable? And then Ina collects a little bit of other information, like I said, chronic disease and weight and height history, so we can personalize the guidance for our users. I just wanted to show you here that Ina responded to my question with one of her evidence-based guidelines and interventions. So I asked for help with constipation during treatment, which is super common and really difficult to eat when you're feeling constipated. So Ina provided an evidence-based guideline here that says it can be difficult to know what to eat when you have constipation. Adequate fluid intake is very important. Aim to drink at least 8 cups of fluids per day. Ina provides some recommendations on fluids to consume, like water, herbal teas, or diluted juices. And even warm fluids can have an extra boost at relieving constipation, and then avoiding binding foods, so bananas and white rice. Instead, choosing some high fiber fruits and vegetables and whole grains with all of my meals. So a really comprehensive evidence-based guideline to help support patients with questions during treatment. Like I said, you can text Ina for help with recipes, and so much more, but that's just a small sample. And everything, I know it's shown on my laptop right now, but everything is over SMS text. So you just go into your phone, you search for Ina, and you can text questions anytime, anywhere. So really accessible and easy for anyone to use. I will pause there to jump back into my slides. So I'll leave this link up one more time. So that just shows the SPOHNC website, our partnership URL, and the QR code. And this will be live on the SPOHNC website for you to access at any point. And I'll pause there so we can just wrap up, share more additional resources, and hopefully have time for some questions.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. This is great information, and I cannot emphasize that it is 24/7. So if you're coming home from work, if you're working, or your caregiver doesn't know what to cook, recipes are available at different times during the day, at night. You want to prepare a meal ahead of time. So this is wonderful information. As you mentioned, we have 2 cookbooks, and the recipes are submitted by patient survivors and caregivers. They're wonderful books. There are tips in there by survivors, and there's also forwards by clinicians like Chelsea, who give their information on various tips as well. We Have Walked in Your Shoes is a wonderful, wonderful guideline for newly diagnosed patients and caregivers. This is a book that is beautifully done with impressionistic paintings, and all these books are available on our website at SPOHNC.org. We also have a monthly newsletter 8 times a year that features great articles on topics of great interest to yourselves and your caregivers. Actually, this month, November, is Caregivers Month, so we highlight 2 caregivers and their stories, which are very, very important to our community, and other information that you will find very valuable. And with our newsletters, we also offer a product directory. Now, Chelsea had mentioned side effects of treatment like xerostomia, dry mouth, mucositis, so on and so forth. But with this book, it's a booklet of 43 pages that contains some of the products and many of them that deal with the side effects of treatment like dry mouth and mucositis, lymphedema. And it gives you the information on where to purchase them, whether they're prescription or not, if you have to get a prescription from your doctor, and the website and the phone number. So it's a wealth of information that can be very helpful during your journey and moving forward. So we've impacted, our community in many ways. We have monthly meetings by, almost 100 chapter support groups through the United States. We have volunteers, as I said, that we match with patients according to their diagnosis and treatment. And we've raised awareness to over 23,000 people online. So we have many resources and programs that can be very helpful to patients with oral head and neck cancer and their caregivers. So we have a slogan, "Together we heal," and it's very important to us that we can help anyone that's been overwhelmed with this cancer diagnosis, and of course their caregivers as well.
All right, great.
So
I'm going
have any Q&A?
Yes, I'm going to, I stopped sharing my screen so I can access the questions. We have one, so feel free for anyone who has some questions to submit them if you are waiting until the end, because we do have some time for questions. But someone asked that we're recommending a plant-based diet, but why is there so much dairy in the charts and recipes? So that's a great question. Please address salty taste. Thank you. Okay, so this is a few different questions. I'm going to address one by one. So that's a great question. Someone's asking, why is there a lot of dairy in the recipes? Ooh. Okay, I found the question. Why is there a lot of dairy in the recipes, but we're also recommending a plant-based diet? So as you go through the different phases of treatment, your nutrition recommendations and goals might change. So while you're actively undergoing treatment, one of the most important goals is getting enough calories and protein to prevent unintentional weight loss and malnutrition, which we know is so common. So oftentimes it's recommended to have high calorie and high protein foods to meet your very, very elevated nutrition needs. That can come from healthy sources and sometimes a little bit less healthy sources, like things that are high in calories, like full fat yogurt, cheese, sour cream. But the most important goal typically during treatment is getting your nutrition needs met. So high calorie and high protein foods. As you change to the survivorship phase of treatment, it's typical that your calorie and protein needs might come down to the more normal range, and you don't have those super elevated calorie and protein needs anymore, in which time you can change to following a more plant-based diet. There's always ways to get healthy, high calorie and high protein foods, but sometimes it's important to liberalize your diet and just eat what you can tolerate. And those are a lot of soft items. So really great question. And just reiterating that as you go through the different phases of treatment, your nutrition goals and recommendations might shift a little bit. Someone also said, can you address that there's always a salty taste in my mouth? So using the FASS, but not the last S, so fats, acids, and sweets guidelines can really help with that salty taste. So use different flavors of fats, like different flavored olive oils, add avocado to your meal, different types of acids, as long as you don't have mouth or throat sores. So acidic flavored foods or dressings, so lemon, lime, citrus, any vinegar-based dressings, all of that can really help. And then again, using that oral rinse before and after meals. Someone also said, why can you not store that homemade mouthwash in the fridge and pour it out as needed throughout the day? That would probably be safe. However, you just want to be really, really careful with, any cross-contamination in the fridge. And like I said before, if your immune system is compromised during treatment, really cautious about, food safety. So making a rinse every day, if you're putting your mouth on it, is typically recommended. If you're making like, a master batch and then pouring out little amounts and not using it on your mouth, that might be safe to do. So that's something you could do ahead of time if you're being really cautious. And then someone is providing their own tip, which I absolutely love, to use organic potato flakes in broth-based soups to thicken them to avoid liquids that are too thin. Love that. That is a great recommendation and very relevant for the holiday time. So thank you for sharing. Some other questions are, can we give our leftover feeding formula from our feeding tube? Someone has some boxes of formula. It's possible that you might be able to donate it if it's not expired and it's closed. SPOHNC team, I don't know if you have resources for that.
Yes, we do. We do have resources. So whoever that person is, they can email us at info@spunc.org and we'll help them find that resource. Okay. I also wanted to mention, as far as calories, you had mentioned, a high caloric diet. So, all of our recipes in our books do show all the ingredients and the calories, so that if you're getting, a high caloric recipe into your system.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
sure you do that as well.
absolutely. So that's really important. So sometimes patients will have specific calorie or protein goals that they're trying to meet. So having those nutrition facts available is really, really important. So that's great. And all of our recipes, contain nutrition facts and also are matched with the appropriate, clinical profiles, so that if you're following a high calorie or a high protein diet, you'll be able to receive recipes like that. A few other questions coming in. Someone struggling with a loss of smell and now no taste, and a really significant weight loss, and struggling to still gain weight. So what I would recommend is following a high calorie and high protein diet if you're, struggling 1 year after treatment to still gain weight. It can take time, so certainly be patient. But having those high calorie and high protein foods and recipes that are available in the SPOHNC cookbook and also on INA. Also working with ways that you can enhance your food, maybe, if it's medically appropriate for you, including some sources of protein powder in your meals, maybe adding it to oatmeal or smoothies, and really increasing the calories and protein in your meal. It can be hard and it can be a slow process, but really working to focus your meals on, high nutrient dense foods. Another question about weight loss after treatment. So weight loss can be super significant during head and neck cancer treatment. So really, like I said before, focusing on those high calorie and high protein meals. And that might be different than we normally eat. So instead of going into the grocery store and maybe buying a low fat or a non-fat yogurt that's right in front of your face, switching to a full fat yogurt, adding a little bit of protein powder or nut butter, really trying to enhance the calories and the protein and all the foods and snacks and meals that you eat. Also working with maybe physical therapy to rebuild that muscle and strength, and also eating a lot of protein to help support your body. Some other questions. I'm a little confused about the next question. I think someone's experiencing like a lack of taste. So for lack of taste, if that is the question being asked, using that FASS flavor profile that we were talking about before, and really thinking about ways that you can enhance the flavors of foods. So adding different herbs and spices, like we said, those are also part of that plant-based diet, using different oils or flavored oils, using different vinegars or acid-based dressings, all things that have high flavor profiles that can help you with, enhancing the flavors of food, tasting food, and eating better. And then someone else is offering to share a tip that has helped them with metallic taste and taste buds, which is Metaquil. I'm not particularly familiar with that product. I don't know if someone.
Yes, it's a product that's in our booklet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for that.
Yes. I love tips from
Yes.
the audience. Those are
Yes.
always the most valuable. And then one last question that we have coming in is a caregiver. Her husband is needing to move from blended foods to practicing swallowing soft to solid foods. So that's wonderful. It sounds like you're progressing towards more textures in the diet. If you are working with a speech language pathologist to have the swallowing study, knowing that he can progress, hopefully they're providing a list of foods that are safe options, but some options can maybe be something like applesauce, some soft to solid foods, maybe really soft scrambled eggs that are prepared with a soft cheese like cream cheese or ricotta cheese, some, soups that are soft and pureed but not fully blenderized. So maybe, pureeing them but leaving a little bit of the chunk. So maybe something like a pea or a lentil or a bean soup that is not fully blenderized but just slightly has a little more solid to it. So just some examples. All really great questions. And I think we got through all of them, which is wonderful. I just want to, again, thank the SPOHNC team for your partnership. We know that eating can be really difficult when you're going through oral and head and neck cancer treatment, and there are many resources to help. So INA will be, an additional resource in your toolkit to help for patients or caregivers when nutrition is confusing, challenging, or you just need some other options or someone to chat with. So thank you again for having me today. Really looking forward to our partnership, and thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea, for your wonderful and very informative presentation. I think everybody got a lot out of it. And I want to mention too that one of our facilitators, chapter facilitators, did go online and try INA. And he came back to us and said he was very impressed. He's a laryngectomy survivor. So we're thrilled about that. And I think going forward, I think many patient survivors and their caregivers will find this very worthwhile.
Wonderful. Awesome. All righty. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.